All right, so when I look at the nitrogen cycle, I like to start up here with the nitrogen in the atmosphere because it's an obvious place for nitrogen. It's one of our sinks, and it's an easy place to start because there's only one input and one output. So the nitrogen in the atmosphere really isn't accessible to many things because it's in that inorganic form. So what happens to it is it comes down, and there's kind of two different steps over here. The first step is this nitrogen fixation option. So if you look at some plants, they have certain bacteria growing in their roots. That bacteria grabs the nitrogen out of the air, and it helps the plant fix it into their roots so that they can uptake it and assimilate it into their proteins. So that's one way that you can fix it. Another fixation is just plain old bacteria in the soil. And that bacteria in the soil does the same process. It takes the nitrogen and it converts it into something that's accessible, that's organic, such as this ammonia right here. That ammonia, now that you have that produced from your fixation, can go two different ways. So plants can take up that ammonia, and that's fertilizer, and they'll use that to assimilate. Or that ammonia can be nitrified, so it goes through the process of nitrification, and it swings from nitrite to nitrate. And nitrite and nitrate, the only difference is an extra oxygen on the nitrates. And that's what's happening in your fish tanks. Remember this ammonia down here. It's pretty toxic, so nitrification converts it into a less toxic substance. So now you have these nitrates. And these nitrates can be taken and assimilated into the plant materials. So assimilation is the process of taking nitrogen and putting it into your tissues. In this case, we're assimilating it into proteins in the body. If you're a plant, you can just assimilate it right out of the soil. But if you're an animal like the rabbit, you need to consume a plant, or you need to consume another organism that has nitrogen in it, and that's how you assimilate your proteins, or excuse me, that's how you assimilate your nitrogen into proteins. So once it's in the plants and the animals, they will poop or die or drop leaves into the environment, and as that gets turned into detritus and gets decomposed, it turns into ammonia, and that ammonia can then swing back through the cycle over here. So we're back to where we started. But the last little step to this whole process is sometimes these nitrates, instead of being absorbed by the plants in the environment and assimilated, they can be denitrified, which is this little process on the left over here. And denitrification is the process where we're going to take those nitrates and we're going to use bacteria to kind of remove that oxygen and turn them back into N2 gas, and it gets released back up into the atmosphere. And this is the one that we were talking about, is an anaerobic process. So that means it doesn't use oxygen, which is kind of important because it's something that doesn't happen everywhere in the environment. It only happens in oxygen starved places like bogs and swamps, and places that have a bunch of organic material that's decomposing but low oxygen, so that those bacteria can survive. And that resupplies the nitrogen gas up to the top, and that completes your cycle. So at the bottom, remember that FixNAD and PAN kind of helps you just keep it all together, the process and the product. And I tried to color code them in the diagram as well so you can see where everything is happening.